Hi guys, I'm Ryan here from Coffee Beans Delivered, and today I want to show you why it's important for every home barista to invest in a grinder. This is something I see all the time. A home barista goes out and buys a brand new espresso machine, thousands of dollars, and the salesperson forgets to inform them that they also need a grinder. So they go home and then they order some pre-ground coffee from an online store or from their local roastery, and they get it home and then they've got to work out how to use it and how to extract a great shot with pre-ground coffee. Now, if you're using pre-ground coffee for brewers like Stovetop or Plunger, which are a lot more forgiving, then it doesn't matter so much if you have the pre-ground coffee there. But with an espresso machine, you've got 30 seconds for that water to go through that puck and pick up and extract all those natural oils that are in there. And if you don't have the ability to adjust that grind at a really microscopic level, you're gonna end up with sour or bitter coffee. This is why I get so frustrated with salespeople who sell a coffee machine without a grinder. Because then those people come to me and they buy a kilo of pre-ground coffee and it takes them 4 to 6 weeks to use up. I've done a lot of experiments over the years with grinders, and I've come to conclude that the grinder is probably the single most important accessory that every home barista should have. You see, all the delicious flavors are locked up inside that tiny little bean, just like a beautiful bubbly bottle of champagne. And when you crack open those beans, all of the flavors start to evaporate and go up into the air over time. So just like when you leave your bottle stop out of the champagne bottle overnight and you go to drink it and it tastes flat and horrible, exactly the same thing happens with coffee once it's ground. Whereas you can have a kilo of coffee beans that are whole, lock them away in a cupboard for 6 to 8 months, and they'll only lose about 20 to 30% of their freshness. So to show you how quickly the pre-ground coffee will lose all its essences, I've got here some that I ground up about 10 days ago, and here in the whole bean, the same batch, and we're gonna run them side by side, and hopefully you can see the difference between the pre-ground and the whole bean. First, we'll look at what an optimal shot looks like. See how nice and slowly it's running? There's a certain viscosity to it, like honey, and it's not gushing through, and it's also not dripping. That's the perfect sort of shot. And now we'll look at the pre-ground one. There's a lot less smell to it, and it's visibly different in color, and see how that shot flows through very quickly. And there's very little resistance because all the oils in the grind have evaporated and left behind a brittle, hard grind which doesn't cause any resistance, so the water doesn't have to force its way through. That's what happens when you have pre-ground coffee. So let's try it again, and this time I'll pack in some extra coffee to see if that helps get some resistance. So I'm packing in a lot more than normal here. It's almost 25 grams, 26 grams, and I'm pushing this down with a lot more pressure. So you can see it has created some resistance, almost too much resistance there in the center. The coffee isn't coming out completely evenly, but it is showing some of that lovely crema that we would get on a fresh coffee. However, you can see it's still uneven, and it is still quite dark and flat in the tone, and this is only a week old, remember, and right there it's not even extracting through at all. So you have to push in a lot more coffee just to get the same results as you might do from a fresh coffee, and that's wasting your money. So now we've established how important a grinder actually is, I want to take you through the different types of grinders, because there's no use in buying a really cheap grinder if it doesn't give you a better result. And there's also no point in buying a $200 espresso machine and then buying a $3,000 grinder if your budget doesn't stretch that far. Now, in an ideal world where you had unlimited money, you would definitely go out and buy one of our commercial machines to use at home. But not everyone has $3,000 to buy one of the Mythos. But what about this little guy here? A little Bodum. It's only $60, and it is a grinder, and it's sold as a coffee grinder. Well, I'm sorry to say, it would be useless spending $60 on this. You'd be wasting your money. This is no more than a glorified onion chopper. And it actually just has 2 blades inside that spin around with really no consistency at all, chopping the coffee into pieces. A good grinder will grind all the coffee consistently and evenly, so there's no clumps in it. And as the water goes through the extraction, it brings a nice balanced flavor rather than being too sour or bitter. If the grinds are uneven, then water's going to flow through at different rates in different areas. So you're going to end up with some parts which are quite sour and other parts which are quite bitter, instead of having that nice even balance of flavor. Also, nowhere does it tell you how long to grind it or even to adjust the grind at all. So you kind of have to guess it. You literally have to put the beans in, put the lid on, shake it around to try and keep it as even as possible. Keep opening it up, feel how coarse the grind is, go a bit more, feel it again, go a bit more. You're gonna waste a lot of coffee and you're never gonna get a great result anyway. So here, I've got a Burr Grinder, and as you can see, inside there's two cogs that come together to crush the beans in an even and uniform manner, which gives you consistent grind every single time. Now this little guy from Breville is only about $200, so it's a very good entry point into getting yourself a home grinder. So let's give it a try and see what the results are. See, look how lovely and smooth the coffee is pouring out. That's just great. Beautiful. So there you go. If that doesn't convince you to go out and buy yourself a little grinder, I don't know what will. So jump online and go grab yourself a coffee grinder if you don't already have one. Do it now. Go on. I'll wait. I'm Ryan from Coffee Beans Delivered. Enjoy your brew.